With week 5 behind us already, I'm going to be doing my week 5 power rankings. Remember, I continue these from the previous week, so I just make adjustments on a week-to-week basis throughout the whole season. Do these every in the middle of the week. So let me know what you guys disagree with, and we're going to start with the Dolphins. I'm going to be keeping them in Super Bowl contender. They've done nothing to get themselves out of there. Honestly, all 5 of these teams right here have done nothing to get themselves out. All 4 of these teams have done nothing to get themselves out of it. The Chiefs lost a close, or no, they won a close one to the Vikings. San Fran blew out the Cowboys. Eagles beat up on the Rams, and the Dolphins beat up on the Giants. All 4 teams looked really good. I mean, Miami, I did see they lost A-Chain. I think they're going to put him on IR. I don't know if they officially put him on yet, but I think Adam Schefter said they're looking to do that, so he's going to be out for a little while, which is a shame. He was, should have been, he is top 5 offensive rookie of the year so far. Dynamic piece for their offense. I think they'll be fine without him. I just think he's more of a luxury. I mean, he's great running back. A lot of teams would want him. But for them, I don't think they depend on him. They're going to stay in Super Bowl contender. Same with the 49ers. Looked great. Kittle finally got involved heavy. Got 3 touchdowns on the night. Defense looked great. They got 3 interceptions. Eagles, dominating win against the Rams. They dominated time of possession. I know they only won by 9, which is still 2 possessions, which is a lot in the NFL. Pretty poor in the red zone. They were like 2 for 6. So it should have been a lot higher of a score. I mean, the Rams did nothing in the second half. And the Chiefs, like I said, won a close one against Minnesota, who's now 1-5, I believe. So 4 of these teams are staying. I'm going to bump the Bills down. And I hate to do it. I know they lost. They lost, but I don't really care about the loss. It's more of the injuries. I think Matt Milano's out for the season. Tre'Davious White, they already lost out for the season. And those 2 guys right there are most their best players on defense, especially Matt Milano. Matt Milano's the second best linebacker in this league. That's a terrible loss for this Buffalo team. I'm not sure if they confirmed out for the season. I know they said they were getting an MRI, but I'm pretty sure it's an Achilles. That's awful. I don't like to do it, but I have to bump them down. Without Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, I don't think they're on the same tier. Like, injuries suck. It's nothing you can do about it, but they are part of the game, and you lost your best defensive player. So it's a tough, and you lost their second loss on the season to an AFC opponent. So I'm going to keep them down here. And the Cowboys are also bumping down. They actually got blown out by San Fran. I thought the game would be kind of close, but they got hosed for 60 minutes in that game. They couldn't do anything, couldn't run the ball. Dak threw 3 interceptions. You couldn't stop the Niners. Niners are the best team in the league. So I'm not going to, they'd still be in my top 10, the Cowboys. They had a bad loss. They got upset against the Cardinals. I know that. But I think there's 30 teams all below them would also get beat up on by the 49ers. So I'm not going to harp on them too much for it. So I'm going to keep them. I'm going to bump them down to playoff teams. The Ravens. This one's tough. I know they lost to the Steelers, and that was an awful loss. I think they had 7 dropped passes by receivers. Lamar threw that pick in the end zone. That was a really bad interception. I don't like any of these AFC North teams, but I just think the Ravens, their quarterback is way better than the Steelers quarterback, than the Browns quarterback. Joe Burrow. I'll get to the Bengals in a sec. I just think Lamar has a floor of wins that is higher than the Steelers and the Browns and maybe the Bengals. I don't know. I know they had injuries. Their wide receivers were awful yesterday, and they lost. So I have to. I'll put them in potential wild card, but they should have won that game. There's a bad loss. They beat the Bengals and the Browns, so I think they're in second in the AFC North. But they have a good record against the division, which is good for them, especially for the tiebreaker. I don't know. It was a really bad loss that I'm not going to hurt on them too much for having that one. I think it was kind of out of character. And I think they're better than what they showed yesterday. Lions, I'm going to keep them here, potential playoff teams. Give me one more. I need to see them against one more team to put them in Super Bowl contender. I don't know who they play this upcoming week. I believe they're playing the Bills soon. I'll have to check on that, so that'll be a big one. But they look great. I mean, they stomped the 0-5 Carolina Panthers. That Panthers team is the only winless team in the NFL. And they did what they had to. I'm not gonna move them down because they beat up on the worst team in the league. I'm just gonna keep them where they're at. I think they're the fourth best team in the NFC, so I'm gonna leave them there. The Seahawks ended up having a bye. I'm gonna leave them there, and so did the Bucks. The Bucks are surprisingly good. I've actually been shocked of how well they played this season. I know they got beat up on by the Eagles, but it's the Eagles. So far, they're 3-1. They actually play the Lions this week, so that's gonna be a big game. I think it's a really good measuring stick for them. And for the Lions, too. I mean, I did just say, let me see the Lions beat another good team. These are two teams. This is a pretty big playoff implications early on for this matchup. Like I said, Bucks are on a bye, so I'm not going to move them down. I think they're going to win the NFC South, especially with Derek Carr's AC joint. Except that did not look injured at all this weekend. We'll get to that. But I'm going to leave them here. Bengals, I'm going to keep them in potential wild card. I know Jamar Chase career day, Joe Burrow went off, but they still barely beat the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are more competitive than people thought they were going to be, especially myself. Still gonna have them in potential wild card because they got a tough schedule coming up. I don't know the exact teams. I know for a fact it's tough, especially the next 4 weeks. I think it is. So we'll have a better gauge of how they're gonna be after that. But I can't put them in playoff team yet. I'm just gonna have to keep them here. Jags. I'll bump them up to playoff team. You beat an injured Bills team at your second home in Tottenham. Tottenham, however you say it. Jags are a good team. I think they win the South. I know I was a little iffy on them because they had a bad loss to the Texans. But they're the better team. They're way more talented. You got the best quarterback. I still don't think they're as good as the teams up here. I know they beat the Bills, whatever. But they just play in the South with the Texans, Titans, and the Colts. So I don't think they have too much of a challenge to make the playoffs. I think they're kind of guaranteed to make the playoffs. That's a big win for them for seeding purposes later on. The Saints, I am going to keep them in potential wild card. I was impressed by what I saw. They smoked the Patriots like 34-0, I think it was. Pretty much everything went right for them. Kamara's looked great the last 2 weeks that he's been back. I think it's been 2 weeks, maybe 3, but he's looked great since he's come back. I originally picked the Saints to win the South, but I know they said Derek Carr sprained his AC joint, so I was a little iffy on it. He looked fine yesterday. The defense also looked good, which was kind of what I envisioned when I picked them to win it. They look good. They're 3-2. They're sitting up there with a winning record. You got to beat the Bucks, though. They're gonna have a couple games with the Bucks. Got to win those. Obviously, got to win those, but those are really going to tell me who makes the play, who wins the South. But I'm going to keep them here. I think they looked really good yesterday. Chargers had a bye. Not going to move them or nothing. They're not going to catch the Chiefs, obviously. But a potential wild card, I'm going to keep them here. The Rams, I know they got kind of bullied by the Eagles, but it's a good Eagles team. They also got bullied by the 49ers. But that's it. They smoked the Seahawks. I know they barely won against the Colts. Yeah. They're still in there for potential wild card. It's a really well-coached team with McVay. You just got Cooper Kupp back, and he looked phenomenal in his first game back. Did not look like the hamstring was keeping him back at all. Stafford missed a couple of throws deep to Cooper Kupp on the sidelines. That's just a timing thing. First game back, they're going to get it down. They're going to practice more. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Cooper Kupp was not practicing while he was on the IR. So they got to get their timing down. Puka looked great. He scored another touchdown in like 7 catches, I think, for about 70 yards with a touchdown. There's room for him in this offense. They just had a tough schedule so far this season. The Eagles and the 49ers, they're not as talented as either of those teams, and they got pushed around. But, I mean, I really do think this Rams team can play well against the rest of the NFC. I know they're going to have a game against the Cowboys, so I'm excited to see how that goes. You're going to get Seattle again. You're going to get the 49ers again. So, they got a tough schedule, but I think this Rams team is better than what I thought they were going to be. The Packers, I'm going to put them in missing playoffs. The North looks like it's going to be dominated by the Lions. The NFC North is bad. That Packers loss last night against the Raiders was really bad. I did not expect that. I think they lost 13-17. Love, I believe, had 3 interceptions. I know 2 of them weren't his fault, it wasn't a good. It's not all on Love. I'm not gonna put this all on Jordan Love. Your team had 11 days to prepare because it was Thursday night all the way to Monday night. the following week. You got 11 days to prepare. Matt LaFleur, you got to do better. I know the team, you don't have Aaron Jones. Bakhtiari's pretty much done, I guess. Um, it's got to be better, though. Like, you got all that time to prepare. I recognize Matt LaFleur is a good coach, but I don't know, you got to be better. I just don't see them making the playoffs. The Browns, I'm going to say missed the playoffs. I know they had a bye. I don't know, their defense is great. The Browns' defense is really good. You had to win the divisional games, so they've already lost a couple of them. Those are going to come back to bite you. And I just think they're really limited on offense without Nick Chubb. Defense will keep you in a couple of games, but it's tough for defense. I mean, you're seeing the Steelers defense win them games, which is what your defense hasn't done. I mean, they very well could have. You just got unlucky on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't see them making the playoffs. That's a tough North. The North isn't that great, but they're all tough teams. Like, they're gonna beat each other up 8 games out of the season, and I just don't see the Browns coming out on top in that one. The Colts. The Colts won a pretty boring matchup against their divisional rival in the Titans. My fault. Anthony Richardson hurt again. I believe it's a shoulder injury, and I think they're gonna put him on IR. I don't know if they officially did yet. Shane Steichen did say he's gonna be out for an extended period of time. I said this, I think 2 weeks ago. I think this team, the Colts, will win more games with Gardner Minshew at quarterback just because he's been in the league a lot longer than Anthony Richardson. He's a better passer right now. But you play Anthony Richardson to get him the reps. Obviously, that's why he's starting. But I'm going to keep the Colts in potential wild card. I don't think the South is a lock. You're going to get the Texans, the Titans. You can beat the Jags are beatable. They already beat them. I'm going to keep them in there. Washington, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I know I had them in there after that overtime loss to the Eagles. They got blown out by the Bears. It was probably Justin Fields' best day in the NFL. It was their first win in over a year. One loss doesn't dictate your season, but in the NFC, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, just in the wild card, you're going to have the Eagles or the Cowboys in the wild card. So you're not getting this. You're not getting the 5 seed. And then you're either going to have Seattle or San Fran in the 6 seed. And then you got to compete with the Saints, the Bucks, the Rams. Just looking at here, that's pretty much it. It's tough to get that 7 seed. I just don't see them making the playoffs. And the Texans, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I had them in there because, once again, I know I just said the South is wide open, and they curb stomped the Jags. I just don't see a rookie quarterback winning their division. That was a winnable game for them against the Falcons. You're not going to win every game. I know that. I don't want to kill them for losing to the Falcons on the road. You're just not going to win every single game and look great every single game. I just don't think they make it. They're not going to get the wild card in the AFC. Like I just did for the Commanders, there's a ton of AFC teams ahead of them. In your own division, you got the Jags and Colts, which is tough. I just don't see them making it. The Atlanta Falcons, I also don't have them making it. They obviously got 2 teams ahead of them in their thing. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs this season. I thought potentially get the 7 seed. I know Desmond Ridder just had his best game as an NFL quarterback. That was actually great. I mean, he looked like he belonged. He didn't look like he was second-guessing himself, especially on the game-winning drive. It looked like he was commanding the offense, and that's really not something you can measure with like numbers and stuff. He looked right in there. It looked like his team. Bijan once again looks phenomenal. Drake London looks good, which is actually awesome. A lot of people forget that Drake London was drafted. I think he was the first wide receiver taken last year. And he's not like a superstar big name, but he looked good yesterday. Kyle Pitts I believe, got outsnapped by Jonnu Smith. I don't know what's going on with Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff that they have against him, or if it's just him. But I don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. Patriots suck. Patriots are terrible. This team fooled me. I watched their first 2 games where I know they started 0-2, but it was against the Eagles and Dolphins, and they fought in those games. They're getting blown out by everybody. I think it was the 2 worst losses of Bill Belichick's career in back-to-back weeks. They're awful. Steelers, I guess potential. I gotta put them in. They're leading the AFC North. I know they're leading the AFC North. But that offense sucks. Like I mean, this schedule's good for them. I think I know they got blown up by San Fran, but kind of lucky they're playing the AFC North games this early because I don't like later on in the season against better teams. This offense is just not going to win you games. They've had a favorable schedule. I believe they're 3-2. They're leading the division. Um, it's just ugly. Like I know Kenny Pickett hit George Pickens to win the game. It was like 40 yards or whatever it was. You can't just get 3-and-outs for 3 quarters and then score in the fourth quarter and win game. Like you're just not gonna make the playoffs doing that. Um, I gotta see it from Kenny Pickett. I am not gonna keep him out of the playoffs because I'm not saying it's impossible. Kenny Pickett can turn it around. I guess it is possible. The offense can look better. But it has to because they're not gonna at this how they're playing now is not sustainable to win games. Um, so I'll keep them there. Vikings mediocre at best. I don't want to say they're number one pick contention. But they're mediocre. They're 1-5. I mean, they're like fighting. I said this in my prediction video, my NFC North prediction video. The Vikings went 11-0 last season in one-score games, and when I picked the Lions to win the North this season, and I said the Vikings aren't going to go 11-0. They're not going to go undefeated in one-score games. I said that. A lot of people saying it was coaching. That's why they did it, not luck. It was 100% luck that they went 11-0 in one-score games. The ball just bounced their way. Right now, they're 1-5 in these one-possession games. I don't know if their win was one possession. I can't remember the score between them and the Panthers. It's what it is. I just saw that Justin Jefferson might go to IR. I know he didn't play yesterday, or he got hurt yesterday, and he didn't play. Tight one at Kansas City. It's a tough one, but they're 1-5. The Jets, I'll keep them missing the playoffs. A big win yesterday on the road in Denver. Second win of the season. Good win, I guess. They got good personnel. They just lost Elijah Vera Tucker, though. You got the Eagles. I'm actually going to be at that game at MetLife. Excited for that one, but that's going to be a tough win for them. If you start 2-5, 2-4, it's tough to make the playoffs, especially in the AFC East. Yeah, I'm about to put them in mediocre at best, but they're coming off a win, so I can't. Titans, I'm going to say mediocre at best. For some reason, I can't stand watching the Titans. It's just like the most boring games ever. The Colts-Titans is the most unappealing, unsexy matchup I could think of. They lost. Like, I really got nothing to say about the Titans. What's his name? Tajay Spear, I think his name is. Tajay Spear. He looks good. He looks really good in the passing game, receiving back. I know Derrick Henry hasn't been that in his career, so I think it's actually a really good addition for him. But he looks good. I guess that's the only thing that looks great. They lost 23-16. Defense is always going to be pretty decent, especially with Vrabel. I think he's a good coach. Simmons, great defensive tackle that does not get talked about enough. You got Byard out there as well. It's the Tennessee Titans. You got blown out by the Dolphins. You did have a 99-yard pick six. That was actually, that was cool, I guess. Fine, your best highlight of the season. But this is a bad roster. I know Saquon hasn't been healthy, so there's absolutely no run game at all. I think Daniel Jones actually got hurt. I think it was a neck injury, I believe, in that game. The offensive line is disgusting. I know most of you have probably seen the Evan Neal thing where he called them burger flippers, the fans, because they're booing him, and he was like, a line doesn't worry about the opinion of sheep or whatever it was. That's awful. You were just a first-round draft pick last year, and now you're part of why this team is so bad. You and that entire offensive line is most of the problem. It's not all of it. Like, besides the receivers being mediocre, Darren Waller hasn't. I didn't think Darren Waller would be that great for him. But that offensive line is terrible. Daniel Jones is going to be the most sacked quarterback in the league, or whoever actually steps in for him is going to be the most sacked quarterback in the league. Giants are bad. Raiders, they actually won yesterday, but I'm still going to keep them mediocre best because I don't think they're very good. It was kind of a mediocre win. You did beat the Packers. Packers aren't a very good team. I just don't think the Raiders' ceiling is that high. There's not much to say about the Raiders. Cardinals as well. I'm going to keep them here. The Cardinals fight. I know they only got one win, but this team does compete. They don't get blown out. I mean, they're fighting. There's not much to it. I just think, I mean, I know the Giants beat them, but I honestly don't think that if these teams played next week, I think the Cardinals would be favored. Panthers, you're 0-5, but you don't even got the first round pick anyway. You suck. Denver just lost to the Jets at home in Denver. They're terrible as well. I don't know how that Sean Payton Russell Wilson relationship lasts. The defense looks awful. I don't know what to say about them. And then the Bears, I know you won, and you might want me to move you up to mediocre best, but it's still one win. It was your first win in a year. Show me it 2 weeks in a row. I don't know who you play next week, but just show me decency 2 weeks in a row. I'm not going to let this one win, blowout win on prime time. Because I think if that was a 1 p.m. game and they beat Washington like that, nobody would be moving them up. But it was prime time, so it gets exaggerated. I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to keep them in the number 1 pick contention. But these are going to be my Week 6 power rankings. Once again, if there's something you disagree with, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you for my Week 6 predictions.